Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, I am really excited to dig into this topic today. I know that it's something that a lot of business owners struggle with, and certainly our circuit sales system students will talk about how this was a huge problem for them in the past. The issue is following these I almost want to say sacred cow. And this is what everybody does in order to be successful as an online business. Following these things, these tactics that are unfortunately deeply, deeply flawed. And I'm so excited to dig into this today, bust a few myths, and maybe bring some relief to people who have been struggling and thinking that it is just them. We promise that it is not you. Yeah. So what should we start with, Kate?
Well, and I want to add too, if you are listening to this episode, by the end, you might think, well, okay, I'm on board with everything you said. Listen to episode 2, because I feel like it's the kind of antidote to this episode, because you might feel like, oh, relief. And yes, I'm not alone, but what's the alternative? So listen, these kind of are a pair, if you will. So listen to one and then listen to episode 2 for sure. But yes, let's start with live launching.
Live launching. Okay, so first thing I want to say is that live launching can work, right? And certainly I think a lot of business owners have a launch that goes well, or maybe it hits their goals and they go, great, this is it, live launching, I can do this. But invariably, what then happens is they do their next launch, they do the same things that they did before, and it doesn't perform, or even sometimes it tanks. And there's a massive unpredictability to live launching that makes it really, really difficult to actually run a business.
And yet, when you have a launch that goes well, and then you have one that tanks or doesn't go as well, or maybe even it does kind of as well, but you were hoping it would do better because you have more people on your list, you thought it was going to even outperform the last one. There's just no sense of continuity. It's completely unpredictable. So how do you plan your business for a year, a quarter, even a quarter, half a year, the rest of a calendar year, without knowing what your revenue is going to be, without knowing what income you're going to have? How do you bring on a team member without knowing if you can afford to pay them for then, maybe until the next launch? But then what happens if you don't hit your goal? Do you have to let go of that team member? And so there's just this unpredictability and stress on top of that, of not knowing and not feeling control over what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You can put in all of the effort. And let's face it, every business owner I know who live launches does put in all of the effort and gives their all. And, there's sleepless nights. And if they have a team, their team is working like crazy. You can put all of that in and still not get results. And how frustrating is that? And to your point, Kate, when you don't know how much money is going to be coming in, you can't plan, right? You can't. And I was talking to some business owners who live launch, and I said, well, how do you plan your business? And they said, well, we plan based on the last launch. And I said, okay, well, how is that working? And they said, well, it's not like we do. That's what we do. We plan on the last launch, but it's a made up number because they don't know how it's going to perform. And it is so common for launches to tank right after you have a successful one. And that's not just the toll that it takes on your business's finances, that's an emotional toll as well, right? The stress of doing all this work, giving so much, staying up late, being there, being on live, being on, all over, making it big and exciting. First of all, when it does perform, it's still stressful, it's still exhausting. I know people who they'll do their live launch and then they'll be in bed for the next week. So they've basically knocked out 2 weeks of the month when they can't do anything else. But when it doesn't perform, then you're also in bed for a week because you're still just as exhausted, except you are maybe beating yourself up. Not that you should be, but let's face it, we're humans. And maybe you're feeling worried because you can't, if you live launch and it doesn't perform, it's not like you can just live launch the next day again because you've spent all this time being like, this is your one opportunity to get in until, and then if you can't relaunch again to try to get those people in because you already told them that this was their one opportunity to get in until, however many weeks or months out from there. I think of it as gambling, as walking into a casino and the roulette game. Basically, I don't fully understand it, but I understand it enough to make this analogy. But you take your chips and you bet on a couple of numbers, right? Which is essentially like if you are live launching, you say, all right, I'm going to live launch once in spring and once in fall. You're randomly picking a couple of weeks, and so you're putting your chips on the board, and then you're crossing your fingers and then hoping that those are the lucky weeks. But I know so many business owners who have their spring launch, and this has to work because they only launch twice a year, and there's something unfortunate that happens in the world, or there's or
Like a
which is
pandemic.
like a pandemic, like social issues, and that are
Mhm.
going to capture people's attention, and they're not at all good. Or there are some financial hiccups, or any
Life. You get
right,
ill, wildly ill, and you're supposed to
exactly.
show up and be your best self.
Exactly. Or if you don't get ill, your kids get ill or
Mhm.
something like that. And so you've gambled half a year's revenue, which of course is half a year's income for you, on this one week working when you can't possibly know whether this week is going to work. And even if you're like, well, I launch once a quarter, I launch once, even if you launch once a month, it's still it's still risky to be gambling your money on that being the time that works. And you're gambling your money, you're gambling if you have a team, you're gambling your team's income. It's incredibly risky, and that makes it incredibly stressful.
And then if it doesn't work, as we talked, or it does mediocre, and I know you felt this, and we've heard it from CSS students, where you start to question whether your business is even worth it if you have a valid product that people even want. You know it's great, you know it has value, but people aren't buying it. So then you start to question, do I even do this? Is this even something I continue with? And the answer is probably yes. You're just going about it in a way that makes you feel crummy and makes it seem like no one wants it and that there's no audience for your product when
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily the case.
Exactly. And or they think, all right, I know that my product is good, but if live launching is the only way to get it out there, and live launching makes me feel so terrible, or it's so stressful and it's so hard, do I even want to bother having a business because live launching is so difficult? And that is a completely valid question, because live launching is unnecessarily stressful, chaotic, and risky. And I know sometimes when I say this, people are like, but everybody says that you have to live launch. Like the big gurus live launch, and they live launch like maybe once a year. Some of them do it twice a year. Some people only do once a year. If they're doing it, isn't that what I should be doing? And what I would respond to that is, yeah, the big gurus can do a live launch once or twice a year because they're the big gurus. People are buying that name. So, yes, they will wait a year, or they'll wait 6 months or whatever. If you are one of those big gurus, then yeah, absolutely keep live launching once or twice a year. Absolutely. But if you're not, it's not going to work for you the same way. Because here's the thing, let's say someone finds you and they're interested in your offer, and they're like, oh, I think this could be it, this could be the solution, this is what I'm looking for. And so they opt in to your email list, and they want to know more about you. They're excited, they are ready to move forward. And what they find out is that they can't purchase from you for weeks or maybe even months until your next live launch. Well, what do
Frankly,
you think?
even days.
Or
Like,
days. Exactly. Any delay is a big problem because you're not one of those big gurus. So what do you think happens when they found a solution that they want and they found from you they have to wait to get that solution? Do you think they wait?
sadly, no.
No.
We wish they did.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? No, they go and buy from your competitors. As
Mhm.
soon as they find that solutions are out there, you may be the first solution they've ever found. And then it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I can get my problem solved. But from you, they have to wait weeks or months. They're not going to want to wait. They're going to go out, they're going to Google, and they're going to buy from your competitor. It's so unfortunate to me that live launching has been made the end all be all. And again, I'm not saying that live launching doesn't ever work. It certainly does, but it's very stressful. It's very chaotic. It's very risky, and it's incredibly difficult to run a predictable, scalable business when you don't know if your live launch is going to do well or if your live launch is going to tank. How can you possibly plan for the future? Not just in your business, how can you plan in your life if you don't know how much money you're going to be making? It's it's so not necessary, and it's such a disservice to online business owners that it has been touted as this is the way that you have to do it, because it's not the way that you have to do it.
Mhm. And it slows down your ability to figure out what does work and to refine your messaging and to find a way to really connect with your audience. Because if you're doing it twice a year, even once a quarter, you're spending months waiting to test that messaging to see if it resonates with your audience. And you're not getting any data in that time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of waiting and
Mm-hmm.
sitting and waiting. And so you could be, if especially if you do it twice a year, it could be years before you can even get results and get any sort of data. And even that data though is going to be very mushy is the word I want to use, because it's, if that much time's gone by and then another 6 months go by before you can implement your new messaging that you've, refined. So much has happened in the world at that time. So much has happened with your audience that who knows if that same messaging is going to still be effective. It may have been
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago, it may have been a year ago, but is it still now? And so you're caught in this cycle of always being behind in some ways with your messaging and not being able to A/B test very, very quickly and implement these little changes that could make a huge difference a lot sooner in your business if you weren't live launching every 4, 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's such a great point, because that's one of the talking points that we hear, right? Well, you have to live launch because you have to refine your message. And how are you going to refine your message if you're not live launching? But yeah, to your point, Kate, like, how can you possibly refine your message if you have 3 months in between? First of all, you don't know what's not working about your message. And so you're testing, which is in a way kind of guessing at a different direction. But then you have to wait 3 months to then test it again.
Yep.
And what if you tested in the wrong direction? What if you tested something that works worse than what you were doing before? So then you that live launch underperformed. So then you have to test again, or you have to go back to the original mess. All of these all of these steps are months and months and months
Mm-hmm.
out. And you could test something that doesn't, or you could test something that doesn't have any impact, and or you could find that you were talking about things in the totally wrong way, and you have to make all these. It's you can't run tests that only happen once every 3 months, or even once a month. Or I would even say, we have talked to some circuit sales system students who previously were live launching once a week, and quite frankly exhausted. But even with that, it was testing was too difficult because there was still a week apart, and trying to figure out what it was that was making the difference. And as all of you know, messaging is the most important thing to your business. You can't play with that. You need to get it right. And you need to be able to test it quickly to get those answers almost immediately.
Yeah. And if you, for example, it makes it very difficult to test multiple elements of something. So, for example, if you're like, oh, I want to change the headline on my sales page, great. But maybe you also wanted to incorporate an entire new section on your sales page. If you do both and then you test it against your old one, well, was it the headline or was it this new section you added that actually made an impact? And so to test one element and wait 6 months between those elements,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really long time to make any sort of difference on any of your
Mm-hmm.
materials or in your messaging. It's just the slowest. Testing isn't meant to be that slow.
No, and it's when it's not effective
Right.
when it's that slow. And as you're saying, if you're testing your headline and then testing another element, because you have to run multiple tests all at once because you only have a couple of opportunities a year, what if it shows a flat line, right? Oh, there's no difference. I guess it didn't. But what if the truth is that your headline increased the conversions by 15%, but that other change you made decreased conversions by 15%? So it looked to you like there was no difference at all. But if you'd been able to test it in different pieces, you could have had a 15% conversion, a positive conversion different if you'd been able to identify what actually worked and what doesn't. So
Mm-hmm.
another reason that we all really need to leave live launching behind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, I want to reiterate what Kate said about like, okay, all right, we're on board. This doesn't work, but what does work? The promise that's coming in episode 2, because the next thing that we want to move into is evergreen. Like, okay, live launching, it's problematic, it is stressful, it's chaotic, it's risky. Okay, we're on board with that. Live launching, so then it's got to be evergreen, right?
Wah wah.
Mm.
Which is why we keep reiterating, stick around for episode 2. We're not the bearers of bad news entirely, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as a lot of, again, circuit sales system students have seen with Evergreen, it's kind of the opposite of live launching in terms of like, there's just low conversions, low enthusiasm, just low energy, low. If people can buy whenever they want to buy, they're not going to buy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They're really, and they're kind of two versions of evergreen, right? And people use them. People use the term to mean both of them. But one type of evergreen is the like, well, all right, if people want my course, I'm just going to put my course on my website, and people can buy it whenever, which is what you're referring
Mm-hmm.
to, Kate. If they can buy it at any time, they won't. Human beings need a deadline in order to take action. We just do. There's a reason why every coupon has an expiration date. There's a reason why, and I'm sure our listeners have experienced this, that people buy on the first day that you open your cart, and then a bunch of people buy on the last day because it's that deadline that gets people to take action. So when you put something on your site and you give people the ability to buy at any time, they don't, because we need that external urgency in order to make us take action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need incentive.
Mm-hmm.
What's the incentive to buy if I can do it at any point?
Well, and then too, there's no excitement. That initial excitement when they first get interested in your solution to whatever problem they have, big or small, um, because there's no immediate incentive to purchase, there's no reason to purchase now, that excitement just dissipates because they don't have to take action. And that kind of leads into the second type of evergreen, which you'll hear people say, well, no, yeah, sure. Absolutely, people need a deadline, then put together an evergreen funnel and then put together emails that nurture them and then give them the ability to purchase. And then that will work just fine. Unfortunately, that also doesn't convert. Number one, because yes, often the way that these things are structured are just really, really low, low excitement. Number two is this nurturing myth, right? We're told that, oh, well, we have to nurture people. When they get on our list, we have to nurture them. And then, only then can we sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true at all. Because again, remember, people are at their highest level of excitement, their peak of excitement when they first encounter you and your offer. And because excitement is a chemical state in our body, we don't, thank goodness, we don't stay at peak excitement. That excitement naturally starts to dissipate. It starts to wane. So all of this time that you're like, well, I have to nurture them, I have to warm them up. No, they came to you, they found you, and they're excited. So all this time that you're spending nurturing is wasting that excitement, because all of that time is letting that excitement dissipate. So all of these days that you're, well, I'm nurturing them, I'm telling them my story, I'm telling them this, I'm telling them why I'm so passionate. All of that time, they are getting less and less interested and excited about what you have to offer. So after your nurture sequence, after all these days when you've been nurturing them and their excitement is dissipating, when you're finally ready to make this sales offer, instead of being excited like they were when they first found you, now their excitement is much less.
Checked out too. They potentially might have
Exactly.
unsubscribed from your list by then, potentially.
Yes, exactly. If they're not interested in your nurture emails, which a lot of them won't be because they came to you looking for a solution, not to be nurtured, right? How frustrating is it for you when you get somewhere and you're like, oh, I think this is something I'm interested in, and you can't get the information about what it is that you want to purchase? It's frustrating, isn't it? This
Yeah.
is another one of those opportunities or another one of those circumstances where they can't get the information from you, but they know now that a solution exists, so they go out and they find it from someone else. There's the analogy that a lot of people use of, well, you have to nurture them, because if you're not nurturing them, it's like going up to someone in a bar, a stranger, walking up to them and saying, hey, you're cute, want to get married? And that's what people say that selling right away is, but that's not true at all.
We're not asking for monogamy from
we're
our
not asking for
customers.
we're not asking our customers to marry us. But also remember that your customer, your potential customer, found you. They found you on social media, or they found you through an ad and then they clicked through the ad, or they found you. So it's not them sitting at the bar and you coming up to them. They're coming up to you. They're interested. They want the solution. So that analogy falls down completely. This whole like, well, we have to nurture them because we can't ask for marriage on the first date. First of all, again, like Kate said, this is not marriage. Purchasing a $1,000 program is not a lifetime commitment that we're asking for
Mhm.
from our customers. Uh, Also, they're the ones who are pursuing you. They're the ones who are interested. So if someone is interested in purchasing from you and you make them wait, they're not going to. Or they're either not going to wait, or their interest is going to decrease to such a huge amount that your conversions are going to tank. And that's why when people go, well, yeah, I tried an evergreen funnel, and people said, and evergreen funnels, it makes sense because everybody says that I have to nurture them before I sell to them. And but my conversions are really low, so I guess I have to go back to live launching. But live launching was, so I guess there's no solution. There is a solution. Again, wait for episode 2. But this is why, a huge reason why evergreen funnels don't work, because it is a fallacy that you have to nurture people before you sell to them. You can do those two things simultaneously. You do not have to burn up all of their excitement and their motivation on all these I have to nurture them to learn. They came in hot. So you can still nurture them. You can still give them context. You can give them all the information they need in order to support that sale, but you could do it at the same time that you are selling to them. And then one more problem with evergreen funnels is that the way that most people set up evergreen funnels, they give people one chance to buy, then they're on your email list, and if they don't buy, well, I guess that was their one
You just
shot.
abandon them. That's
Exactly.
it.
You have other
Goodbye.
programs, but that's not how people operate. First of all, we've already figured out that unfortunately a lot of people who would have been perfect customers for you have been turned off by the system that you were told to put in place. Not your fault. You were told that this is how it's supposed to go. So their perfect customers have been turned off by this system. But there are also going to be some people who just aren't ready to immediately purchase. If you do it right, a lot of people, if you put an effective sales system in place, a lot of people will be really willing to purchase right away. But some people just won't. Maybe it's the wrong time for them. Maybe they literally don't have the funds or something. So when you in the standard evergreen funnel, what are we going to give up on people? We put in the time and the effort, and if it's ads, we
Say
put
the
in the
cost,
money
yeah.
exactly to get people on this list. So to then be like, well, we give up on you is is crazy, and it's a major disservice. And actually maybe that's where I want to kind of pull all this together is our
Mm.
potential clients need what we have to offer. And instead of giving them what they want when they want in the way that they want, all of these systems, the live launching, the evergreen, all of this, it either makes it really really difficult for them to actually purchase these programs that they need from us, or these systems that we've been told to put in place actually dissuade people from making the purchases from us. That does a major disservice to us and our businesses, but it also does a major disservice to our potential customers.
Yeah. We're preventing them from getting the thing that they need that could solve a
Yes.
problem, which is we don't want to be the roadblock, right? We want to let them take control of their situation and be there for them and serve them, which is presumably why we're running a business, is to serve our audience and serve our customers. And so
Mhm.
to do these things is just is selfish in a lot of ways. It's putting things on our schedule, on what works for us, not what works for best for our customers. And, especially with live launches, thinking of, well, I'm picking the day that works for me, and maybe it's at this time and it works for me, and
Mhm.
forget all my customers, and maybe they're at work or they're taking care of kids, or and they can't show up at that one time that's been arbitrarily chosen because it doesn't work with their schedule, which makes sense. We all have
Mhm.
lives. We're all doing 10,000 things a day.
Mhm.
So we're going to ask people to show up for our schedule for something we want when we're supposed to be serving them. It
Mhm.
feels very antithetical to what our purpose is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, if you've been doing this, it's not your fault, because this is the vast majority of tactics that are being taught out there. But to Kate's point, they're very focused on our schedule and our needs. Whether or not they're actually serving our needs is the crazy thing.
Mm.
We're constraining the sales window, we're constraining how our potential clients can purchase from us, we're constraining all of this, we're making it more difficult for them to purchase, and we're also making it really uncomfortable for us. The time that you are spending on those live launches, that's time that you're giving content, you're giving energy, you're giving away to people who haven't purchased from you yet. When really, when you think about it, the people who should be getting your best energy and your best time and your best focus should be the people who've paid us, right? Those are the people who deserve our best because they said, yes, I want this, I am in. They have paid us money. They should be getting the best of us. But unfortunately, the way that live launching, especially, makes things work is that your best energy, your best self goes into your launch. And then again, you probably spend a couple of days recovering, maybe a couple of days, maybe longer, but all during that launch, you can't give your best to two different audiences. It's you have to choose priorities, and unfortunately, during a live launch, that that has to be the people who haven't paid you yet. And then even after, when you're recovering, you can't give your best to your paying or paid customers or clients, and that's not fair. It's not fair to them, and it doesn't make any sense for us to invest so much energy. And the as we know, the average conversion rate is like 1 or 2%. Now with a really good sales system, you can get that up certainly higher, but the average conversion rate is 1 or 2%. So you are giving your all to this audience, and only 1 or 2% of them is going to purchase from you. Whereas you could be giving that energy and helping the people who've already purchased from you, helping them see the results that they have paid you to get. It's just, it's a misuse of our time and energy. And as business owners, we have really limited time and energy.
Yeah, I feel like if you're always stressed about revenue and hitting your next number and you're always focused on people coming in, you can never improve your offer service to the existing customers. You can never build on what you've done because you're completely stressed and focused on just trying to hit and trying to stay afloat and keep your business afloat. And so how can you grow and scale and provide more to your loyal customers and develop that loyalty and relationship if you're just never have the time to focus on them because you're
Mm-hmm.
always looking the other direction.
That's so true. Exactly. Like when you're always planning for the next launch, that's going to be it. You're working in your business. You
Mm-hmm.
never get the chance to bring your head up and look at the lay of land and start working on your business plan. Special events for your paid members to help them be more successful, or plan additional all of the kinds of the fun things that we get into business to do, not the
Mm-hmm.
just the day-to-day grind. When you're perpetually planning for the next launch, you're only ever able to look that far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lift your head up and look around you. No, the good news is, again, we'll say it one more time. I know you're sick of hearing it, but just in case you missed it earlier, we are going to start talking about what does work, because I understand that you're probably in a place that a lot of our students have been, where they're going, all right, yeah, I'll live launch because I have to, because this is what I have to do, but I'm exhausted and I'm not even sure I want to do this anymore. And I tried Evergreen, but Evergreen didn't work. So I had to go back to live launching. And if you are in this place, first of all, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to release an episode talking about my story as well. But also, we talk to tons and tons of online business owners who have had that same experience. So if that is where you are, if you are frustrated, if you are doubting yourself, if you're doubting your business, if you are thinking there's got to be some better way to do this, the good news is there absolutely is. And also, I just want to again reiterate that if you have been struggling with this, it's not your fault. There's a lot of, if not bad, at least flawed information out there. And unfortunately, the online business arena can be an echo chamber of bad advice, right? One person says it, and then a bunch of other people start saying it, and maybe even teaching it in paid programs. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there teaching things that they've never been able to be successful with themselves. It's very unfortunate, but it is true, and I see it more and more every day. But even if they're not teaching it, one person shares something and then another person shares it, whether or not they even know if it works. And as it gets shared more and more, when you hear it, you go, well, I guess this is it. Everybody's saying this, so this is what I have to do. I have to do live launching. I have to do paid challenges. Oh no, I have to do free challenges. I have to do Evergreen. I have to do boot camps. I have to do all of this stuff. And it's overwhelming, and it's hard to know where to turn next. So if you have been feeling frustrated, if you've been feeling self-doubt, if you've been feeling maybe I'm not meant to be in business. I know I have something good, but maybe I'm not meant to be in business, or maybe I don't even want to be in business because this is too hard. It doesn't feel like it's worth it. If you have been there, or if you are there right now, um, first of all, you are not alone. That is where a lot of people are. Um, as we always say, it's easy to look successful on Instagram. It's easy to look happy and successful, but I can tell you that there are a lot of business owners, and a lot of pretty big business owners, who are feeling the same way, or have been feeling the same way. So if you are there, you are not alone. It's not your fault, but also the good news is there is an alternative. There's a way to step away from all of that and do something that actually works, that works for you, that works for your business, and probably most of all works for your potential customers. So that's what we have to share with you today. And again, the solution is coming up. So we will catch you in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.